And joining us this week, Don Close from Rabobank. He is at the USMCA meeting in Kansas City. And Don, as we talked about, African swine fever has just really been impacting really all the proteins. But we continue to have this conversation. What happens if it does hit North America? How devastating will that be?
I'm really getting mixed signals on that. If you listen from comments from some of the veterinary professionals that have been in China, you are clearly getting a response that it's not a question of if, it's a question of when. Since that time, I've heard a lot of things that I find encouraging. The first example they bring up is the number of years that the U.S. has been testing for and preventing for FMD and how good a job we've done there. I think that's encouraging. Saw some stories earlier this morning that agreement has been reached between the U.S. and Canada on regional. In the case that there is an outbreak, we'll do trade on a regionalized basis. That's really good news, and we need to get that clause in a lot of other agreements. The other thing with one of the maps that was shown yesterday, if you look at the density of hog population in China opposed to the regionalized production of hogs in the U.S., we have a much better opportunity at isolation and eradication than basically anybody in China or Southeast Asia.
A couple of things right quick. One, you talked about one of the earlier presentations at this meeting. Talk about the dairy industry and the impact worldwide we could see. Are big changes coming to dairy?
We're seeing some, I don't know to say that there's big changes. We've clearly been seeing net liquidation of cows for the last 6-8 months. Just on the weekly slaughter data, and we've seen enough of an improvement in milk price that we're seeing some improvement in the global markets, seeing a little bit of improvement in the U.S., and starting to see some evidence that rate of cow liquidation is slowing down. I don't want to be overly optimistic on dairy, but I think to reach a level of stability in dairy is very likely.
Okay, let's jump back. USMCA, we talk about China, we talk about every other market, but really the two most important ones are just right near us.
Yes. Well, and clearly, the first observation I would make is when we reach the impasse with China or this cool-off period, as we've heard it referenced, clearly the emphasis of the administration shift back to getting some resolve at USMCA. That was immediately followed with the removal of the steel and aluminum tariff. You've had the legislative changes in Mexico to get the approval. I think all parties involved need that trade so badly. I think like when we got the NAFTA agreement, we talked ugly about it until the House vote and a very narrow passage. I think we'll ultimately see a similar conclusion this time.
All right. So before we let you go, bullish or bearish looking to the future when it comes to our proteins?
On proteins, short term, I'm very cautious and just take the seasonal decline we've had in cattle prices over the last 3.5, 4 weeks. Long term, both from a human population view, if you look at the animal health issue view, I'm incredibly optimistic. I just think it's going to be a lot of volatility to get from here to there.
Don Close from Rabobank has joined us. Stay with us. We'll have more coming up.